Exactly, some consistent performances from both of these players, never really cracking that top 8 level we're talking about. But the key thing here is that this system that we have here in Road to Red Bull Wololo Legacy is something that does favor consistent, decent performances. And these guys, they have been taking away 5 points, 10 points from each of these weeks, and they are slowly piling up sufficient points to be considered candidates to make it to Heidelberg.
Oh yes, and man, I'm hyped. Like the RecoN at the start of the Road to Wololo was actually one of my people to watch. He hasn't been able to deliver the performances at the pace I was expecting, but he, in fairness, he gets knocked out by a lot of the top level players, right? He makes it through to the Muslims, your Whams frequently, and gets annihilated there. He's just lacking that next level. But I think that this is the time to show up. This is why we're seeing players like ZertoN and RecoN start to actually accrue points. It's not just you can talk about the fact they don't have to compete with the most obvious ones in monthlies. Even on the weeklies, it's the change in the meta, the evolution. And it's kind of weird to say because usually the person who has more time should be ahead. But I think when there's so many varying ideas on how Civ should work at the moment, sometimes actually playing less can work better. That Mr. idea, right? That you have all that time to theory craft when you're doing your other job.
Indeed, that's a good point. That both of these players, they are essentially part-timers, though now ZertoN is signed by My Insanity, relatively smaller Swiss esports organization, but an esports org that is very relevant in the AoE scene, does have a very talented and young roster of AoE2 players, and does have 2 players from AoE4, one of them being ZertoN, the other one somewhat lesser known simply because he doesn't play in that many tournaments. That is the Mista. We don't really see him on the screen a lot because, well, he's busy doing his farming work. Him already being qualified for Heidelberg, he's also prepping for that. But indeed, 2 members of My Insanity, Mista and ZertoN, could also open up opportunities for ZertoN for possible scrim games or practice games against his teammate.
Damn, you know what Mister should do? He should run a training camp. And like, My Insanity should go crazy. Like, hire a bunch of people, like, sign a bunch of content creators, like pros, send them down there. They'll live on his farm. You could actually make it a content series, right? And the best part, Mister, hear me out. This is why you want to get them to do this. Free labor. Have them work the fields. Boom. And then you say it's good for them because they'll spend all the time theory crafting new ideas like you do. There you go. I'll take my 20% share on the profits.
In here, ZertoN is facing RecoN, a player he has never faced before in Age of Empires 4. This is an interesting matchup because these guys played against each other numerous times, but it wasn't in AoE 4. It was in Age of Empires Online. Never before they have faced one another in Age of Empires 4.
That's pretty exciting to think about. And these Civ matchups as well. Like, Lipany is a map where which is strongest is still up for debate. The Abbas's, I'd say, has become the flexi pick more so than the Roost at the moment, if you look across all the maps, especially if you're playing more default maps. But the Roost still hit pretty hard, especially on Lipany, if the generation allows for it. Main thing you're looking for is a boar that gives you a nice proxy base. And I can see one boar on the map that actually looks pretty succulent. You see that little piggy near the southern one? I think you could build a pretty nice proxy base over here.
Indeed. This is actually a great point that you bring up. Where is...
Yeah. Am I blind? Like, I'm actually trying to figure out where the other board... There's no second... Guys, we've improved Lipany, okay? Let's be real. The second ball sucked. No one ever went for it anyway.
There's none. I'm trying my best to look for it, but he might just be hiding under one of those marks on the minimap, but I have absolutely no idea where is that. It's very possible we don't have a second boar. Whoopsie.
Oh, okay, so like, I'm not going to write out the possibility that one player aggroed the ball and it disappeared, because that bug still happens. So maybe, but I don't think we're going to torture vodka with slowly panning around the entire... We wouldn't do that, right?
We would never do that. Gold being mined over here by RecoN at the beginning. Very much an old school Roost build out there. No move out towards either of those boards, or at least the one that we do have on the field. So it looks like we're just going to have a bit of a Knights play over here from RecoN. And then maybe a second town center as a delayed follow-up.
Okay, so if I had to guess where the pig's going to be, it's next to the sacred site, right? So like, if we check the sacred sites and we don't see it, we're not going to bother to waste more time. We'll just fire Biddlin. Like, it has to be, right? Like, I swear, someone has clicked the ball. Wait, there he is. There's Pumbaa. See, I told you, someone's just griefing. So those unaware, you know, like, game is a lot better than it was. There's still a few small bugs. One of them, I don't know why I'm telling you guys about this. It's almost like I'm a troll trying to get you to troll people on ladder. If you attack a boar and aggro it away, when it returns, its icon will disappear from the minimap.
And can we just get a big shout out to our observer Vodka for being able to find it? I mean, sometimes
Bravo.
those boars hide in the corners. He has done a masterful job finding it in like 15 seconds time. So credit where it's due. Vodka doing a great job with observing as usual.
And also credit to Bitterlin. The fact that I said like it'll be somewhere near the sacred site and it actually was. Round of applause, right? None of this BS spawn where it doesn't make sense where the other boar is. It actually was kind of where we'd expect it to be. And actually, by the way, that location is really good for a proxy base as well, if he wants to play towards it. But considering that we are 6 minutes in and RecoN hasn't made the pull, I don't think we're going to see it. In fact, by the looks of it from RecoN, we're not even going to see a secondary TC play, which is one of the most standard builds right now for the Roos, especially on a map like Lipany.
I'm actually unsure about this one. If you take a look at the wood that he's banking up and the gold as well, you get the feel that he's about to buy the stone.
Yes.
And he's working towards the hunt on the right side. Delayed second TC out there, established some map control with that single knight. But yeah, there it is. 2 tickets on the Golden Gate. Should be sufficient to get him the stone he needs for a second TC.
The only unfortunate part is you're not getting much value here, right? You get the deer, which is great, but like usually you want a deer plus a wood line. So if you had ZertoN spawn, you'd feel good. Actually, if you look at ZertoN spawn, I'm kind of surprised he hasn't played for it yet, mainly because berries are better than deer. But he has 2 deer stacks that are very close together next to a wood line, one of his home wood lines. So wouldn't be surprised if ZertoN drops a 3rd TC forward of his original.
Exactly. It looks like he's just playing with 2 TCs, so there's going to be no extra town centers being added by ZertoN here. But he's already amping up the military pressure, adding some horsemen, adding some spearmen, and the problem you feel here for RecoN is that this second TC is already quite late compared to his opponents, and his military escalation is also slower with the Rus than what the Abbasid can do. So he could miss out on some key timings here, and he could easily find himself being overrun by the Abbasids in the next few minutes.
Yeah, the key is that you have the better unit, right? You have the Knights. Now, they're good up to a certain point. You have to think of the Rus in this matchup similar to how you think about the French. Like, your goal isn't to mass crap tons of Knights, because if you do, ZertoN will just build a single Camel Archer and laugh in your face, and then spam spears. So your goal really is to just try and balance that Knight count and start sniping eco, and with that, build up a lead and look probably towards Castle Age. I think in this matchup is a good point to start really piling the pressure. We'll see which way it goes. I think ZertoN is also comfortable going Castle. Just the Abbasids right now really peak at that point. If they can get 18 minutes in with a 2 TC build into Castle and start getting camels and heavily armored units out, they can snowball.
But it's not a 2 TC build, KP. It is going to be a 3rd town center being dropped by the villagers. ZertoN, he's realizing that this map is actually rather well defendable if you take a look at the cliff spawns.
Yeah.
With a couple of walls, he could make his life even better. But even without walls, seeing the limited amount of knights from RecoN, he's gotta be more than happy to drop a 3rd town center, especially knowing that his opponent is on 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he drops it near the relic and the berry patch. He could even think about dropping it in that kind of crossroads you saw near the dead deer. Something I would also like to see him do is drop an outpost or park a scout in that stealth forest in the center, just because it offers quick access onto these deer stacks, which should be a priority for ZertoN by about 15 minutes.
Speaking of priorities for ZertoN, for now, he's just operating with horsemen, sees the spearmen pop out from RecoN, so he's gonna have to start adding something to his army here to deal with those. Possibly camel archers. You get the feel that food archers wouldn't give him massive value here, and in the long run, you prefer to just go horseman camel archer, but he's yet to start doing any of those. In fact, what is that? Are we stuck with
so he's pushing a few spearmen finally. It looks like ZertoN just wants the naked spears out for the brace, and then he'll come back for the upgrade afterwards. But keep in mind the RecoN's like already escalating spears. So this comp right now for RecoN looks a bit more healthy. But if ZertoN gets to like 20 plus spearmen, that's when the Abbasid Phalanx comes into order. And oh my goodness, this isn't order, this is chaos. Villagers spot making the pull towards the boar. Horsemen will happily trade their life to chip away at the eco. Sadly for them though, they cannot hang around the choke point where they get body blocked out by the Knights.
But it's the information. You know that your opponent is moving towards the board. The problem for ZertoN is that he won't be able to stop this. In fact, he's gonna have minimal impact on this. The Knights can just charge and kill the boar. So this is still good for RecoN. He's not going to lose any villagers to this, and really the only thing that ZertoN gained from that was some information.
Give me some pigs, give me some berries, and let's go eat that dinner inside. Town center, 3rd one for the Roos, dropped on the sacred site near a choke point. Also, by the way, near a relic. Great read by RecoN. There's nothing that ZertoN can do to stop this because he went a little bit light on the military due to his eco greed.
Exactly. You see that the follow-up for ZertoN was a third TC, just so that he can build an advantage when it comes to villagers. And RecoN, he just responds to that with his own third TC, but the positioning of that is stellar. It is at a key strategic location, allowing you to build up a forward base there even. It secures a board, it secures a berries, secures a sacred site and relic as well. As bad as the second TC was for RecoN, this third 1000er is absolutely stellar.
And it's going to draw attention to the mid-map. And if he just walls at home, like there's nowhere else that ZertoN can go. So you can condense the fight closer to ZertoN's base. And also one big thing to think about is, if we start moving hard into archers, which ZertoN has started to build, and more spears, that plays to a Rus advantage. They get 20% more wood, so they can escalate their military infrastructure and mainly their archer push much better than the Abbasas can here in Feudal Age.
And RecoN is going to be given an opportunity to respond to this one. You see, he has a clear vision on the ranges, knows fully well that his opponent is going to have a hard switch into archers, and he's going to be able to prep his response in time.
The nutty part is that ZertoN has not spotted this scout the entire time. I think RecoN every once in a while peels him back. He's been gathering this info for, I think, 4 minutes at least now. And it's never been denied, despite the fact that ZertoN built Horsemen, the one good counter to scouts.
Exactly. You see, RecoN still has 3 scouts alive, so his vision is actually stellar. Look at that. ZertoN barely sees a scout out there.
So on point by RecoN, man. This is why I give this guy so much credit. Small details like this really go the mile. Like, maintain that vision, being ahead of the transition. Sure, it gets sniped out like this, but, dude, I'd pay 70 food for 4 minutes of free info any day of the week in this game.
Talk about a caster curse. Finally, scout goes down, but still.
It's okay, he's got 2 more, right?
And information is valuable. Massively valuable.
And in credit to ZertoN, like, you need to get rid of that scout. Too much free info has been given over. The wall's now trying to go up a little bit too late. Knights are going to raid in. He needed these walls in the easy choke points sooner. You said how easy to be able to hold in them. But right now, RecoN, a little bit sleepy there. Will get pinched on one of the Knights. The problem is, however, that 5 Knights, in fact, make it through. And this is a distraction. RecoN needs to buy time because what he's doing is castling up while these Knights bait ZertoN to the back of his own base.
ZertoN is trying to counterattack on the northern side of his opponent's base, but the walls are already set, and that's the difference maker here. Hydrate House is the landmark of choice for RecoN, as his opponent has no chance to push him here. He's going to get to Castle Age with an even eco compared to the Abbasid player. This is a really good setup.
Now fight! Fight! Knives out, boys! ZertoN's like, no, I want out of here.
Yeah, the red villager just says, I refuse, and... well, ZertoN just wants to escape. Scout could be yoinked here. Nice value out there, limiting the vision that ZertoN's gonna have.
In the meantime, the horseman on the north side couldn't do any damage. Tech up's about to complete. Interesting choice by RecoN to go for this, despite the fact that he has the quicker tech up. I think the reasoning here is he doesn't really want to yoink relics fast. He wants a more volatile and aggressive timing at the beginning of castle. So he doesn't want to have to spend, even at half price, gold going into these warrior monks.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He's probably also respecting the composition of ZertoN and the fact that ZertoN could just double up on the pressure, right?
Yeah, I think like he just doesn't want to be seen as too greedy, right? Like he's got Knights out, but if he starts fielding Warrior Monks, he has to worry about defending Warrior Monks while also raiding. Whereas if he does it this way, he can just fully focus on raiding and shutting down ZertoN's economy.
Speaking of ZertoN, he's also on the way to Castle Age, but he can't accelerate his progress, right? So advantage massively on the side of RecoN, and that's also part of the reason why he went with the Hydrate House. He's in no rush to get the relics, because it's not like they're going to be taken away from him.
Yeah, like he could actually just go one Warrior Monk and slowly gather them up, and I think he still gets the majority. Also, transition underway. Ding ding, RecoN, playing the Rus in Castle Age. What do? There's only one thing. Build Horse Archers, and look at the read. ZertoN perfectly identifies it's time for Camel Archers. Will counter out not only the Knights, but also the Horse Archers with that Camelonese giving the 20% damage debuff.
Yeah, looks like it's not gonna be a single type of unit on the army of either of these players. So, as much as we love the Horse Archers, we're also seeing some men-at-arms, some crossbows appear on the field for RecoN. So, he keeps his options open when it comes to unit compositions.
RecoN.
And, yep.
Kill that boar. Bro, look at his man.
No, he's not doing it.
Nibble him. Just take him out.
Nice value. Look at
Try
that.
to take someone else out. The timing on that.
It's the vision once again. Scouts on the hilltop giving him so much free information.
Don't even garrison. Just walk away. Oh, that feels like the most why did I do this outpost imaginable. and the Knights. Dude, look at the split.
Oh.
RecoN is everywhere at once, and ZertoN is not ready to react. Remember, that tech up still hasn't complete yet.
Yeah, it's getting increasingly worrisome for him. Finally reaches Castle Age, but look at the timing on this. RecoN knows he has to go, and he does just that.
Villagers, this is not the time to cut down wood unless you want to be cut down yourself. Diving comes out from RecoN, getting value for the army. Still exchanging well. 1 or 2 man-at-arms just peeled off to bait the attention of the entire army while he kills Eco and idles it elsewhere as well. And that wood line is looking thin. Knights are going to be able to breach in. More villagers are going to be going down. I expect at the end of this raid, RecoN to probably be 20 villagers up at this raid.
He's right now 11 up, but he also gives himself a window to get the relics, and now moves in for the lumberjacks. No reaction just yet from ZertoN even. Uh-oh.
2 tappers. Remember, it only takes 2 strikes here because your Castle Age Knights, he'll finally peel them back everywhere. So much idle eco coming out from ZertoN. And this is crippling right now. You just completed your tech up. You want to boom your military. Yeah, it feels like a third of your eco at any given time is idling or dead.
And as you said, RecoN is just tearing apart ZertoN's eco. ZertoN's got that slow-moving unit composition here. He's struggling to catch up to all those high-mobility knights and horse archers diving in every once in a while, and his eco is just suffering from a massive amount of damage now. Once again, horse archers moving on the right side.
Mangonels are finally in play. ZertoN only got 1, and this is where the horse archers might struggle a little bit. Not only do they get countered by the archers, but also by the Mangos. Would love to see a transition out of RecoN. Looks like he's doubling down on the men-at-arms, and that's a good read because so far ZertoN hasn't really been going hard into the crossbows.
Indeed, and as you said, raids decreasing in intensity, although we're gonna have the response here to those Mangonels. Springolds already being added by RecoN. He managed to sneak a couple of those horse archers to the back of his opponents. What? What? Let's go back there. Did you see what I saw?
Tell me. I didn't just see what I think I saw.
The knight was beating up the tower with a sword.
What? Well,
Yeah.
dude, like when you sharpen your sword enough, is it not just better? Like it's a blunt torch versus a sword. Of course you can. Look, that giant chunk out of the outpost was his sword, dude. Don't discredit the power of a good sword or the power of a good spear here. Yeah, Mangonel goes down, but the Springle's now going to be traded out. It's still a positive trade for RecoN considering the cost of these 2 units, but you can see he's slow on his retreat. He's sacrificing troops because he peeled off his horse archers. Horse archers that are now wrapping around the south side of the base. ZertoN looks like he might be able to react. However, the berry line is gathering in his base. Meanwhile, the main fight is at least going to be won for him, but I'm concerned about the eco back in ZertoN's base that's now being harassed.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage done to the eco out there.
Good wrap. That was a good move. Like, the archers were circling around and the Mango was waiting. ZertoN read that perfectly. Takes a good exchange on both sides of the map.
Still, though, losing quite a lot of villagers in the process. But as you said, the fights he's taking, those are good. Mangonel is taking this down, and he has the archer plus spearman combination to deal with horse archers. This is a combo that horse archers will struggle against. Mangonels need to be added now by RecoN.
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm a little bit perplexed. Like, RecoN is doubling down on the horse archers that have not been working for him in any of these main fights. It's a little bit concerning to see because it's taking a little bit longer than maybe archers would to produce, and you're just losing these fights one after the other. You can see the military count. ZertoN does have the lead, and this is the time for you to try and bounce back, right? Like, he's in your base. You should be able to react. The good news is the relics are finally being gathered. I think RecoN accidentally kept running those warring monks around for a bit. But it's only 2 relics. And now that the keep drop in the center, ZertoN is ready to start sniping through all of RecoN's infrastructure.
Yeah, he has this great positional advantage right now. This is going to be a great stronghold position to fight from. And also, as you said, limited amount of relics available for RecoN, despite the fact that he has been in castle for a long time. And it's starting to put a toll on his eco and his ability to field a powerful army because, as you said, he went so heavy onto the horse archers. And he's yet to make a tech switch that really deals with what ZertoN has on the field.
Yeah, I'm a little bit perplexed. I mean, he's now going mainly for men-at-arms. He stopped at 20 horse archers, which is kind of okay. But you already saw camels, right? And now the issue is, like, you can dive in to try and kill the camels, but the archers will pick you apart and so will the Mangonels. He needs to win with Springolds, and the issue with that is you're playing against the Bastards. One of the best civs escalate Sprinkle count due to their ability to build in the field. Mango shots coming out looking good. Trade out attempts, and as he moves in, he's going to learn a hard lesson here. Horse archers are not that great at dealing with Mangos.
Men-at-arms, though, in the mix.
Men-at-arms? This feels like a bad fight. He's baited. He's just going straight up for the Mangos again. He's going to throw away the army to get rid of the siege, and I don't know if that's the trade you want to make.
Not at all. Castle fire out there, crossbow fire, and you see the mangonel, and it gets taken down in the end, but what's the price? 6, 7, 8 men-at-arms taken down for it. Springboard's still alive, and this strong point still stands strong. RecoN's losses are massive, and he didn't really have the numbers to sacrifice here.
MVP Ram there pays for itself straight away by taking out a Siege Workshop. In fact, in the positive, remember, Ram's only 250 wood, Siege Workshop's costing 300, and that slows down the counter for RecoN. RecoN, who's now waiting on Boy's Fortitude to be his redemption arc. It can help to a decent degree here. However, if the Mangonels get reinvested in by ZertoN, you'll be smushed just as quickly.
Yeah, Horse Archers here decreasing in numbers rather than increasing. Men-at-Arms, they don't really do much over here anymore because the crossbows are out there on the field for ZertoN. And you see that battering ram still knocking away at the buildings. RecoN, apparently caught in the middle of a farm transition over here, could be the worst possible time to be caught.
Yeah, because you need wood-based units, right? Like, you need to get your hands on more Siege Workshops. This is going to be a heavy burden on your wood. Meanwhile, ZertoN, like, he never has to worry about that. He doesn't build Siege Workshops. He just builds it there on the front line. And you can see him now starting to put wood to good use in other ways. Outposts to extend vision, likely looking at a secondary keep drop. In fact, ZertoN floating 1,000 stone, definitely going for a secondary keep drop, probably near this wood line.
Yeah, it remains to be seen how aggro he was gonna be with that. There are multiple decent locations out there, but it looks like he's gonna go very aggressive. Villagers being pulled to the front. And I wonder... He hasn't yet dropped it. But there are the villagers. I think he's just setting himself up.
He's going to drop the keep right next to both of these Siege Workshops, just north of the berries. Yeah. It's going to frustrate RecoN. It's going to block him out of some wood, and also it's going to prevent him from building Siege here, which is problematic because he needs that to answer everything ZertoN's doing right now.
Yeah, still stone being piled up. He's actually getting close to a second additional keep being available to him. Looks like he's calling off his forces for the time being. Actually goes for massive walls all across the map. He just wants to concentrate fights elsewhere, and there is the castle you've been talking about. Very aggressive, something that RecoN is going to struggle to stop.
Well, RecoN doesn't want to stop it. RecoN wants to tech up. You can see he's saving up now. He stopped producing. Like, he says, this is it. Like, I can't win in Castle. And he's quite right to identify this. With the way the map is laid out, the way it's played out, and his composition, there is no fight he can take right now that he'll win. The only way he wins is with this, a tech up. But that tech up needs to be a quick transition into force. Because right now, ZertoN is perfectly postured to rush into your base the moment he sees it.
Indeed, RecoN is gonna get a confirmation on that keep being dropped out there. Push now beginning. Could be the perfect timing for ZertoN. He's got some trebuchets out here. He's got Springles to take down Mangonels with. And he could easily catch RecoN in the middle of that tech up.
Needs to be fast about this, though. Siege Workshops aren't the key detail for RecoN. That's not what's going to allow him to recover this. Streltsy is also not the way. If RecoN tries to rush that, he's going to lose. It needs to look into the upgrades for the Horse Archers. That extra range could give him the edge. And keep in mind that there's no more Mangonels being built by ZertoN.
Yeah, indeed. He already has Boyar's Fortitude, so part of the equation is already there. But as you said, he needs to get his existing army upgraded. He can't afford to make a tech switch in there into something completely different in Imp. He's up to Imperial. This is a go-to sign for ZertoN. Ready to drop a second keep in a matter of seconds. Also flirting with the idea of Imperial Age himself.
RecoN is prepping the Springles with superior range. Keep in mind, if ZertoN does go for the tech up, it's going to be 2 minutes out. Banded Arms should give the extra range needed for good trades. And then, of course, Shutter Triggers on top of it guarantees it. For the time being, a lot of the base is being sacrificed by RecoN. Decent amount of wood income to replace it. Key detail here is to make sure you research the right place. And he is going for the Streltsy. This is a dangerous strategy here. 35 seconds to produce these units, and you do not have many archery ranges.
And the problem is that archers deal with them quite effectively as well. Crossbows, even decent trades. Yeah. You don't have time. As you said, Streltsy are great if you have time to mass them, but do you have that time? That's the big question. And I don't think the answer is yes.
Not with 4 archery ranges. I don't think he's got Military Academy either, so it is 35 seconds raw. He hasn't decreased it. The escalation in this is going to be far too slow. I don't think it's going to happen for free. And the problem now is ZertoN hasn't seen your army. He hasn't seen anything new. So he should very easily read that this is going to be a Streltsy play. And I wouldn't be surprised if he already preps a counter to it.
And he's got great counters to it, let's not forget. He's going to be able to just go for archers with composite bows and the trades will be stellar for him. Sure thing, on even numbers, Streltsy win, but the efficiency is going to be massively in the side of ZertoN, who himself is almost up to Imperial, and that's where it really starts to hurt for RecoN. RecoN actually floating 5,000 food. What is he up to with that?
This could be a hard horseman push. I think his issue right now is a lack of wood to get the infrastructure together. So you can see, like, he keeps reinvesting straight away. Yeah, this should just be mass spears, probably. Like, any mass spears or men-at-arms. You just need to throw away crap units to guard the Streltsy. That's the whole idea of this strategy. And right now, ZertoN's not going to let him have any good trade. You can see the walls going up. He's going to delay his assault here. We'll let the tech up complete. It gives RecoN a little bit of time, but the big question mark that's yet to be answered is what does RecoN do with that time?
Yeah, that's the problem, right? He was able to squeeze out a better limb timing. He even survived to get the upgrades in, but by the time he really starts moving, his opponent is gonna be up to Imperial as well. So once again, we're going to have an even footing when it comes to technologies.
And if this turns into a trade game, if it goes that late, ZertoN has an advantage there. Not only is he the Bastards, but look where these trade posts are located. In opposite corners, away from the battlefield. And if you think actually about where people are prioritizing their build, where they're harassing, ZertoN has a much easier job of guarding his trade than RecoN would if we got to that stage.
Yeah, and the walls are already set, right? So he can just sit behind those walls, set up the trade very safely, and it's gonna be extremely difficult for RecoN to raid those. You see, he's prepping for late game already with the Great Wall of the Abbasid Dynasty.
I mean, he's parked up. He says, okay, if this has to go late, park her up, I'm ready to go. Like, nothing to worry about for me, for good reason here. The Bastards, of course, one of the best civs in the game for late game trading. The Roots, on the other hand, you know, with some relics, a little bit of passive gold generation, they aren't the worst at hyper late game, but if you look at the stats, I feel like the Roots have really struggled in the last month when it comes to 45+ minute games.
Yeah, same thing, right? Abbasids, they are one of these sneaky under-the-radar candidates when it comes to great late-game potential. The trade is there, but also the buffs they have. Essentially, every type of unit that they work with has a massive buff to it. And look at that, trade being set up by RecoN. He's going to shorten the first travel distance by dropping the markets right next to that trade post.
Yeah, and this is what I'd expect out of RecoN. This is a guy who actually is one of a few players that will frequently, on Mongols, go for the Silver Tree build. He loves trade when he can get away with it. Problem right now is it's not for free. You're also playing as the Roost. One of the weaknesses of trading the late game is you don't have stone walls. You would if you went for the Spellskar Tower, but I've yet to see a pro player choose to go that way.
Springle's rolling up here. Get a freebie on the Trebuchet. Might even get a second one.
They will. Shots out. No way to retreat quick enough. Pressure start to come out. It's free trebuchets for RecoN. He can begin to breach these defenses. However, behind these defenses lies transition. ZertoN not only prepping Culverins and Horsemen, but also hand cannoneers.
And keep in mind, those are Abbasid hand cannoneers we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
They'll be healed by the castle. Also extra HP thanks to the bootcamp upgrade. It's gonna be difficult to deal with, but the Roost have their tools to do so.
Look at the tool he chooses to use here. The Horse Archers, he's going to upgrade them. Remember, Horse Archers, with the upgrades, go up to 5.5 tower range. That exceeds the Hand Cannoneers. And you can stay away from them because Hand Cannoneers are a static, slow-moving unit.
It's also a very population efficient and bulky unit, the Horse Archer is. So it's something that can absorb a tremendous amount of damage, allow your Streltsy to fire away at the enemy from the backline. And look at that. RecoN is pushing out of his base, gets the walls taken down, and he also sees the enemy army. So he has a good idea of what he's facing, sees a lot of crossbows that won't be that good against the Horse Archers.
It's actually a remarkably good read out of RecoN because ZertoN can't go into Mangonels. He's countered by Springles. Like, even this Culverin feels kind of wasted. He's massing Springles, but he just doesn't have the range. It sounds like a little, right? Just 0.5 extra tower range, but that means RecoN gets the trade out first. And you're about to see that. Springles starting to shuffle out, looking to anti-siege and anti-siege. They get a little bit too close here, but we'll snipe out two. So 2 for 2 exchange. And the Culverin will begin to dictate this fight. Meanwhile, the main clash comes out. Horse Archer upgrades are through. However, the Culverin and the crossbows are quickly picking them apart. Treb's going to be forced back. Horse Archers are all that remains. And they are standing their ground. A mistake made here. The hand cannoneers are able to rip right through them. And RecoN is about to lose his army.
Numbers are lacking here for RecoN. Look at that. He's down to 33 army over here as opposed to 60. He has 8,000 food in the bank, but he's not using it. He doesn't have the production to replenish his army. And that's part of the reason why ZertoN can push up even more.
Well, the push is going to get stronger as well. I'm pretty sure that RecoN never got his hands on Military Academy. You can see ZertoN now researching. On top of that, you're playing the Abbasids. You already get a 20% production speed increase off of your Golden Age 3. I'm sure he's close to, if not unlocking that already, which means that his push power, as long as his eco can sustain it, is going to exceed that of the Rus.
Indeed, and you see he's gaining more and more ground out there, has enough stone to drop another keep, also manages to trickle in a couple of horsemen to the enemy base, which is gonna be painful for RecoN to deal with. It's a distraction, right?
This is the frustration, right? This is a popular strategy. Build horsemen, peel your opponent's army to the backside. If they're playing static comp, they take too long to respond. The good news for RecoN fans, he's playing dynamic. Horsemen and horse archers can quickly react. However, it's still going to buy time for the main army to begin to breach in. And that siege force is getting a little bit uncomfortable here. Double culverin, triple springled. RecoN should have the answer, but he stopped building anti-siege. Instead, he's going to rely on horsemen to take this down.
Even worse, he's not just relying on horsemen, he's adding a lot of spearmen over here. Curious decision given the fact that he's facing hand cannoneers and crossbows.
It's kind of a tough one. He just needs cheap units. Look at RecoN's eco. He can afford food. Anything else is invested elsewhere. He's trying to build trade, so he can't afford wood and gold heavy units right now. Long term, he will be able to, yes, but the time being, he needs to win these fights off of cheapies. And right now, the meta is food and wood. You feed your soldiers and then give them a giant club to beat people down with. Spearmen and horsemen will overwhelm and obliterate ZertoN's first wave.
First wave dealt with, as you said, crossbows, no longer serving their real purpose, not a lot of armored units in the army of RecoN, but this is where ZertoN can afford to make the tech switch. His population space is freed up, and now he can continue to make units that actually do counter the units that RecoN has, but RecoN, with the momentum, once again could renew this push on these walls.
Pushing in, Streltsy Horse Archers the second wave, doing a lot of damage here. Good utilization of the wall with the hand cannoneers, so ZertoN can't be targeted on those units, but the numbers clearly now in favor of RecoN. A lot of investment into siege coming out from ZertoN. The problem with this is it's eating up a lot of his pop cap, and sure, you have those excessive production rates the Abbasses have access to, but right now, you need bigger numbers. It's not the production push speed, it's the quantity you're bringing to these fights that is losing them time and time again.
And our resource banks as well. RecoN is floating a ton of food. He's got a lot of gold to work with as well. Being able to reinforce this fight is much easier for him than it is for ZertoN. ZertoN struggling with food shortage, actually pushing deeper with the siege. He's got to be careful with those.
And you're seeing the power of having that extra bounty unlock, getting the tier 3. That extra 5% actually adds up at this stage when you've got so many farms, especially when you're up against a civ that gets such a big bountiful gathering rate like the Abbasses with their golden age. It's allowing him to kind of stay in pace and compete. And in the meantime, he's taking good trades, which is why this bank is looking so damn healthy and so big for him. Keep in mind that also ZertoN still has not switched trade, likely to not even know that RecoN has gone for trade. And by the time he realizes it, it may be too late.
And that trade is starting to kick in here, as you see 150 per trip coming up for the Rus player. And indeed, no trade for the Abbasses, so sustainability massively on the side of RecoN. He's got a big resource bank, he's got a strong and population-efficient army, and most importantly, a trade already set up, with a chance to possibly take a fight very soon in the middle here.
Getting a little bit worried for ZertoN here. Because the issue is vision, right? You carved up these walls, you dictated the territories, but you never went snooping in the backside. That's problematic. Means that RecoN has longevity to his strategy here. He can afford to push premium and discounted units and still take good fights. You can see what they're doing right now. The push out continues, and one thing that ZertoN is missing here is camels. Camels would be remarkable against these horse archers. Instead, RecoN is getting to have his cake and eat it. Finally, the camels arrive, but by the time they get here, your army's already been wiped again.
And Streltsy, they will do well against those camels as well, so it's not like they will be very, very long-lived. And here come the first wave of horsemen here from ZertoN, trying to stretch out the playing field on the left side. Might even get a glimpse of the trade here. Most of those units, though, being picked off by the keeps and the towers nearby. Still yet to find out the trade of his opponent.
Just a few, like 20, 30 horsemen, the damage they can do right now. And you're the Abbasses, you can definitely afford that. However, right now, the burden he has is he's starting to mass camel archers. That is a heavy cost, 180 food each. You know, population efficient, sure. But you're at a stage in the game where you haven't got the quantity of food coming in per minute to keep up with that quick switch. That's going to set him back, and that's going to allow opportunities. Opportunities that RecoN's now looking to pounce on. Heals the horseman on the south side, will look to make a breach. If he finds his way in, he could do some serious damage on the backside.
Exactly, and the key thing here is that ZertoN at one point is going to start running out of gold. And even if he doesn't go for a super gold heavy unit composition, he's going to be caught in the middle of a potential trade transition. That's the weakness. That's something that RecoN can exploit.
Here's the weakness. RecoN, I wondered where those bombards went that he built so long ago. He pulled them all the way south. Reactions coming out, but remember that RecoN has the better unit here. Boy's Fortitude chunks up his horsemen more so than the Abbassid ones, so they need to be at a raw number advantage here to take a good fight. And there it is. Camels arrive. This is the clash he needs. RecoN likely to peel the horsemen back and go hunting for eco to draw attention while he rebuilds the walls.
He does just that indeed, pulls back the forces, but this is opening up an opportunity in the middle. You see, camos are gone, and trebuchets are still set up for RecoN. He's just using that raid as a distraction to try and push the middle, because as long as that keep is standing in there, ZertoN's gonna have to focus his attention there. That is just too strong of a position, and he needs to get rid of that.
And these horsemen just like, look at the count there, right? It's double the amount of units from ZertoN chasing. It's so much wasted pop cap, and that's why you're now going to see RecoN gain some territory in the center, because he's got pop cap efficiency due to the fact that he's bogging down less troops in a task.
Indeed, look at that, blasting his way through the walls as well. Keep in mind that we see everything on the map. RecoN doesn't.
Yes.
So
The
RecoN
wall?
doesn't
The
know whether...
wall?
Oh!
He's in! My wall, not yours. Streltsy on, Spearman on, outnumbering him as well. And I don't know where the anti-siege is going. They're trying to snipe out the trebuchets, but they'll easily be shredded by the Streltsy. What a move coming out from RecoN. That high ground also giving 2 extra tower range means he can attack everything in this area without moving, equaling a static deployment bonus. They will be cleaned up by the Mangonels, but damn, did they get some damage done.
Yeah, he's trying to use those walls against his opponent over here, but also trying to push towards the trade here. Keep in mind, RecoN has no idea whether his opponent is trading or not. He's assuming he does. Little does he know that ZertoN is not on trade, and this is why RecoN is so insistent on pushing this angle.
These bombards, like, they actually have paid for themselves. The amount of units they've sniped out, like, notice that, yeah, you're losing the army, but the bombards are still sniping out premium units. They're still forcing more attention down here. Meanwhile, you have what? This siege in the north side that you can't commit pop cap to. It's really problematic right now for ZertoN. And in the center, in the meantime, it's a maneuver in. RecoN sees the opportunity to strike. Trebuchet now targeting onto the keep, and an opportunity now to flood through into ZertoN's base. Only small palisade walls keeping him back.
Indeed, and flood through he does. He's going to send his forces directly into the base of ZertoN. Once again, a diversion that's going to allow him to just take down that keep in the middle. More horsemen now coming in here. He's starting to turn that 10,000 food into real army numbers.
Yes, sir, and you can see ZertoN, even though he's up almost 4,000 food a minute, he's struggling to keep up the demand of this war. These trades have not been efficient. They have not been favorable for him. Time and time again, it seems losing twice the amount of units that RecoN does. Finally, he's once again through to look for that trade, but the problem is he's stretched thin. If he goes to these raids, he has to breach past keeps. That means you need 20+ horsemen to do enough damage, and you can't afford that much pop cap away from the main fight.
But how about just positioning your strats on top of those walls out there? He could use his opponent's walls for an advantage over here, as there's a counterattack from ZertoN trying to snipe the trebuchet. He's going for the trap.
I mean, it's so much wasted for the trap, though. Like, the army's going to be blitzed, another trap will come up behind it, and you're already on fire on the keep. If you don't pull villagers now, it's already dead.
Yeah, he's just desperately trying to hang on to that keep, right?
Yeah. And the Streltsy, remember, the longer they just stand the ground here, the better it is for them. The trade-outs are so damn good. Horsemen plus Streltsy are eliminating the camel archers. Sure, you're reducing Horseman's damage, but remember, half their damage is bonus, which means you're not taking away 20% of the damage. You're only taking away 10%.
And now ZertoN has to start adding trade himself. This is the transition. This is the transition that he could be caught in the middle of. And this is the window that RecoN has to possibly finish him off.
That's an army wipe there, Lidical. He won't be able to hold there. Camel archers can't stand around. They're just going to die. Now that the keep is gone, he has to fall back. ZertoN does have enough for a backup keep. However, here's the critical ingredient. That was a choke point. That was the only choke point in this area. He only has enough for 1 keep.
Oh, this is getting increasingly worrisome here for ZertoN. He's at the bank with 8,000 gold, but he simply can't use it to anything. His unit composition exclusively reliant on horsemen and camel archers. And now look at that, as you said, choke point gone. Suddenly, you have to defend an impossibly undefendable, actually an impossibly defendable wall. This long wall is not going to stand for long.
Oh, what's that? You got siege everywhere? Let me just send a few horsemen there, because that's all RecoN's building. Small amounts of Streltsy, plenty of ponies to go. It seems it's breeding season on the stables. And I love this composition. Like, he's still scaling his trade. He's not straining his gold income. He's building enough Streltsy to wipe the enemy army while horsemen continue to push. And it's working damn well here. He's into the base now. ZertoN struggling to keep up with the war machine.
And look at that, he's out of food, whereas on the other side, RecoN still has a bunch of food in the bank, bunch of wood in the bank, even gold as well. He can just keep flooding units over here, whereas for ZertoN, replenishing these forces is just gonna be more and more difficult.
Hold the front door. RecoN is trying to sneak a proxy base to raid from the backside. Oh, I love this guy. He's playing wide, and ZertoN is being torn apart by it. He wants a straight fight down the center, but RecoN refuses to give it to him time and time again.
Oh, Camel Archer numbers, though, increasing. Look at that, all the way up to 43. And with those numbers, they can start taking really good engagements. Horsemen will no longer crack it. You need some firepower behind this if you're RecoN.
A lot of Horsemen are coming, though. RecoN still holding on for the time being. Meanwhile, Horsemen starting to pinch in the north and south side. Wolves did get re-established south side, and it looks like Trey is going to start to be established there as well. But RecoN, once again, looking to go into the breach, is going to draw attention back towards ZertoN's base.
Camel Archers now possibly the most population-efficient unit on the battlefield. And look at that. Once again, we're back where we came from. Wolves being rebuilt in the middle, and it is still ZertoN who's holding that choke point, working his way towards trade, but there is the forward base you've been talking about.
Whoops. RecoN now knows. Because he went for a play aggressively, he wanted to set up his own base, he discovers the trade. And ZertoN sees the villagers, but he needs to react. Camel Archers in the meantime are going to torch the wooden fortress, but they've bought time. RecoN, like, he does have a kind of cool counter to the Camel Archers, just build bombards. Like, over prolonged fights, they will win out. And the thing is, this is kind of cost efficient when you consider a Horseman is only half the price of a Camel Archer. So you can afford to sacrifice a lot of with the wallet. I love this idea, actually. He can't afford to pull troops from the front line. So he'll just delay the threat here until he's ready.
And he wars out the Horseman, actually.
Okay, the gate's going up. They're going to come into play. And that's important. That's a great read because ZertoN needs to take this fight right now. If he peeled, say, 10 of these Camel Archers away to deal with this, he gets wiped in the center.
Keeps the Camel Archers in the middle, though, and those can take so good engagements.
The problem for RecoN is he stopped pushing Streltsy in a good quantity. He's in the middle of transition. He's actually going towards Knights here. Interesting choice up against the Abbasids, but here's the kind of kicker. Knight Saber somewhat offsets the loss of damage from the aura. So it's actually not the worst investment possible, especially considering RecoN's got all this gold, but the problem with Streltsy is they don't move fast enough with his main army.
What's more concerning for RecoN is that he's also adding a lot of Horse Archers over here, a unit that the Camel Archers will directly counter. Unless you have a lot of Horsemen in front, could be the nice combo, 1-2 punch. Horsemen plus Horse Archers. Still though, this is not the unit combo that should, at least on paper, work.
I mean, you say that, but look at the flop of dead bodies on the floor there, right? Like, it does actually feel like it's somewhat working. It's kind of funky to look at. And some people just look and go, what the hell is RecoN doing? Like, he's putting full cavalry against camels? We've been saying Abbasids are S tier, but like, if this is one of the S tier units and he actually loses to this, I have to reevaluate every statement I've made about Age of Empires.
Oh man, but here it is. Once ZertoN is in there with the Horsemen, he also has a front line, and look at that. This is when they start winning big time. Big counterattack coming in the middle. 67 army against 65, but where is the army of RecoN at?
Is RecoN just doing the get dunked by camels challenge? Like, I'll build everything that the camels should do good against, right? Like, cavalry to reduce damage, spearmen to get double damage. Like, that's everything that RecoN's building. He seems perplexed as to what the hell counters camels right now.
I mean, we are reaching that point where Camel Archers, they're just the best unit on the field, plain and simple. They have the flaming arrows to even do some damage to siege with. High HP unit, very good value, doesn't even cost you gold. And it's something that debuffs the enemy army as well. There might not be any answer here for RecoN.
You say that, a lot of the camels are being cleaned up. There's a horseman switch behind this though, and the worrisome detail for ZertoN is because spearmen are being pushed, horsemen as well, like he can kind of create this idle state, right? This stalemate in the center. And meanwhile, on the backside, those knights, that's where they're being produced. On the proxy base that didn't get cleaned up, they're going to get value down there because ZertoN is bogged down in the central fight.
ZertoN needs horsemen in front of those Camel Archers because if it's only Camel Archers, they will be overrun eventually by the horsemen and the Horse Archers. But once his horsemen arrive, it's a different story, and you see they're just now arriving onto the battlefield, suddenly swinging it in his favor, sniping the siege as well. Great momentum here for ZertoN.
Yeah, RecoN doing a little CGQT Junior here. Not good enough, I'm afraid. Not able to keep his siege alive long enough to really return that value. And this is the beginning, the surge point for ZertoN. Sure, that raid is striking him on the backside, but with plenty of gold in reserve, trade really isn't that important to him. He doesn't need it for longevity right now. He doesn't need it to close out this game.
Yeah, nice trades out there. ZertoN losing a couple of eco behind this one. No trade for him, but as you said, no need for a trade, actually. He needs momentum, and he does have that.
Yes. Yeah, he's diving in, and RecoN, like, still no Mangonels. Still, like, at what point do you just try Mangonels against this? There's so many camels. Streltsy back in the field. That's a positive, actually. I love that. He's up to 30 in the blink of the eye. Remember that he's been being stingy so far. However, he's delayed going into Streltsy so long that this is an opportunity for ZertoN to dive past the defenses and raid eco. He doesn't take it, though.
Yeah, ZertoN is playing this one cautiously. He doesn't want to throw away a game, possibly.
Ouch! The TC and the farms? Like, look at ZertoN's eco now. He's down to 109. He's losing more. He still hasn't cleaned up the Knights.
I don't know. Losing the bombards is actually more problematic for him. I think...
I'm losing my mind right now. Like, how many bombards is that? I think it's 3 that have gone down there. The horsemen have, like, not been getting good trades. The Knights have been sniping out traders and villagers. ZertoN's eco is actually going to get a lot weaker in the next 2 minutes as he tries to rebuild it.
Oh, look at it. This is terrible, though. Running into the Streltsy.
No. They don't even have to move. They get the freest trade of their life. Oh my god, the panic, the walls, That is not helping Wolf, sir. That is not helping Wolf. What a play there for RecoN. All he had to do is let go of his mouse and keyboard and he takes the fight because the Streltsy have more range than the Camel Archers.
And his proxy base is just... This proxy base is just such a big distraction over here. Those Knights, they're not doing that much eco damage, but they're distracting so much. And look at that Camel Archers now being slain in the middle by the Streltsy.
And the Mangonels. It's triple Mangonel, and ZertoN has not reacted. He created a choke point that makes it even better. He can't even rush it with horsemen anymore. Oh my good lord.
Oh, this is getting increasingly worrisome, and those Knights, they're doing just enough here to focus ZertoN's attention to the south, and he's increasingly worsening his chances with that in the middle. Now counterattack coming in by RecoN. As you said, escalation potential no longer there for ZertoN, down to 160 population against 200.
I'm losing my crap quicker than ZertoN's losing his villages right now. This game is swings and roundabout central. You know, New Lipany, is this our future? I don't know. It's definitely what you get when you tune into these two players facing off, but RecoN now proving that gun beats camel. Especially when they Congo line into their death like this. RecoN is tearing ZertoN left and right, and he's never able to react to both punches at the same time.
And now Streltsy are on the field, and look at that. All the value that ZertoN had in his army, those were the Camel Archers. They're gone. They're completely gone. Trying to tech into hand cannoneers, but that's not going to work.
Yeah, but what's it like? That's what I'm about to say. What's this comp? Like, this comp makes no sense against Mangonels. You need siege.
It might even be too late. Chemistry missing. Oh,
wow.
Mistakes made on both sides, actually.
RecoN has done all this without chemistry. Just imagine if it was there right now, how one-sided these fights could be. RecoN now gaining momentum, though, and this time moving in with bombard support means he can start to chip away at the military production of ZertoN.
Oh, and look at that. Gold is running out for ZertoN as well. That's going to make it much more difficult to add culverins to deal with the Mangonels. The Mangonels, they could just wipe out all those Camel Archers. Better and better fights taken by RecoN. Worse and worse for ZertoN.
Army's gonna be thrown away. Streltsy aren't receiving reinforcements quick enough, but the importance is they're still trading out damn well. And the problem is if ZertoN backs up until bombards will clean them up. Speaking of cleaning up, that's what he's finally doing against the Knights, but he only sent hand cannoneers down here. The infrastructure will remain, and thus RecoN's ability to continue to harass down here will be sustained.
Looks like ZertoN lives to see another day here, but he's losing ground. And look at Mangonels!
That stings. He's lucky that wasn't more damage. It looks like when he cross-stepped them, the shot actually tracked the front camels. It didn't hit the hand cannoneers. That would have crippled him, because I think half of his total hand cannoneers were there. Speaking of the rest, they're down here trading out with Knights, and they're slowly losing this battle. And the problem with this is, you know, one-on-one, maybe they trade out okay, or in this quantity at least. But the problem is what happens afterwards. You have to replace those hand cannoneers. That's a slow-moving unit. The Knights, not so slow. Speaking of which, they wrap around, they find the bombards for free. Culverins will be sustained for ZertoN, but a heavy price once again in the siege when he's running out of gold. Gold that RecoN has no end to.
Oh, nice flank run by the cavalry though by ZertoN. He's going to take down some of the siege. Actually takes a really good fight here.
Mangoes in the meantime, like look at the damage to the camels. They've taken heavy hits here, and there's a second wave coming behind this. The reason this is not good enough is ZertoN doesn't have the gold to now push forward. Meanwhile, gold-heavy units keep coming into his eco, chipping away at his food count, a food source that he's more reliant on than he was a minute ago, Lidicor. He's now exceeding 4,000 food a minute to try and keep the war machine going.
Oh, he desperately needs to clean up those stables. They have been alive for so long, and this is the wound that he's bleeding from the most. He needs to somehow get rid of those stables. Trying to do that with the trebuchets right now, taking way too much time, more than it should.
There's so many knights coming out in the meantime. Like, there's military academies, +6 stables. It's escalating. And the problem is he has to keep drawing more and more forces. Like, he took this fight in the center. He should be rushing in. He can't rush in because his eco is a little bit shaky, and he still needs to clean up the south side. This, once again, buys RecoN time to rebuild that premium army. And his Streltsy will wipe the floor with these hand cannoneers, considering how low ZertoN's count is.
Yeah, those raids are just tearing apart the eco of ZertoN. That has been the story for a long time, and this is buying precious time here for ZertoN, or RecoN rather. And you really get the feel that ZertoN, he's got a bunch of horsemen. At this point, you might just commit and try to take down those stables, even if you lose the horsemen in the process.
And the problem is he'll draw the whole army. If he does that, he's going to lose infrastructure in the center. So it's like, it's just kind of choosing whether you want to lose your arm or your leg. Like, that's kind of how it feels right now.
Yeah,
and you can see how easily the trebs get mopped up. That hits hard, considering ZertoN's lack of gold.
Yeah, but this is the point where I feel like ZertoN should forfeit the middle, at least for a moment, to clean up that wound, because it's just so painful.
The Streltsy! King of the hill right now! Unload, boys! No counter for ZertoN. He doesn't have Mangonels anymore. Last time this happened, he had Siege to counter it. This time, it's going to be a wash of a fight. Oh my god, these walls! Just delete them! They're your curse right now!
He can't even delete them anymore. And look at this!
Not
the
right now,
stables! They should be deleted, but he can't do that. And they just keep trickling in knights into his eco while his army in the middle is once again getting slain. RecoN is just grinding his opponent down piece by piece.
ZertoN needs cannon placements, but that won't even work due to the bombards. Like, the Streltsy are just mopping him up. The problem is, like, sure, you're cleaning the horsemen, but by the time you've cleared up the last of the horsemen, your entire army is gone. And whatever remains will get traded out well against Streltsy.
Oh, look at that. Once again, he's distracted, and he's going to let the camel archers be slain.
It's problematic. Like, by the time the horsemen reach, they're all dead. New wave of horsemen coming in. That's going to bait fire once again onto them. The bombards have cleaned up the outposts. RecoN understands too well that long-term, this is his game. Maybe this is the redeeming quality. ZertoN finally is cleaning up this base, but the price might be high in the center because the bombards are coming in, the Streltsy are well parked, and ZertoN is struggling to keep military pop cap up.
And yeah, as I said, you clean up those buildings to the south, it means you forfeit the middle. He decides to do this, but it might just be too late.
Ouch.
No
Siege
more camel
workshop's going
archers.
down.
He just
right
popped
now,
in.
I mean, it takes so long to produce them. Remember, camel archers by default have the same time as a knight to produce. So even military academy is a long time to wait. Even the Abbasids is a long time to wait for the next wave of units. Meanwhile, these horsemen are being pushed out quicker, and they move quickly across the battlefield. RecoN diving in now. He's reached the housing. The housing that can pop cap block you if you start sniping it down quickly.
And he is going to start focusing down the houses, but look at the numbers increasing for ZertoN. Might be an overextension by RecoN because the cavalry from the south is going to arrive in a second.
Literally, he can't keep escalating though. Look at his pop cap. If RecoN starts sniping down more houses, ZertoN's going to be locked out. He can get 190, not even 200 right now. Wraparound comes in with the bombards, but Streltsy will be quick to clean that up. The bombards will just begin to snipe down more of the infrastructure. Meanwhile, the next wave of horsemen quickly arriving on the front line for RecoN.
Streltsy getting taken down, though Bombard still standing strong. Camel Archer numbers actually increasing. I don't know, KP. I think he still has a chance to hold this in the middle. Those Camel Archers increasing in numbers.
Okay, but hear me out, Lydical. What next?
I don't know, just play a 5-hour-long game, I guess. I mean, I don't think ZertoN is thinking about what next.
He deleted most of the wall. Not the entire, most of it though. There's still a part on the left side. So if he plays into that choke, I swear to God, if he gets back up on that wall, I'm gonna lose it.
Hand Cannoneers now increasing in numbers.
Right now, who needs a wall? I've got more horsemen, I've got more Streltsy. I mean, this is actually a frustrating detail to think about. Like, the Streltsy trade out better than the camels, yet they take the same amount of time to produce. Oh, that stinks.
This is still an interesting one. Keep in mind, RecoN is lacking chemistry on those Streltsy, and if you do have that for the Abbasid player, it's a different story. Those hand cannoneers for the Abbasids will wipe the floor with the Streltsy.
Okay, but let's talk longevity. Like, I know we said the Abbasids have great trade, but that trade hasn't looked so great for the last 15 minutes in this game, Lydical.
Oh, no way.
Have chemistry, I can't believe it. But also, look at the wood for RecoN. He's carved up so much of the tree lines of this map, but once again, the donkeys go limp.
Oh, it's unbelievable to a certain point. RecoN is getting so much value out of that single stable. And as you said, this is why ZertoN doesn't have a trade. ZertoN was doing his best to try and clean it up, leaves a single stable alive. And that stable is doing a tremendous amount of damage on ZertoN's eco. Part of the reason why he's struggling to do anything in this game, really.
Look at the trade. Was this 30 traders? It has to be more than 30 for RecoN by now. He's so comfortable at this stage. Just look at his resource bank and then look at ZertoN's. The only thing that RecoN's really missing is a keep drop. If he drops a keep in the center, I actually don't think ZertoN can push in anymore. And he has enough to go for this play.
I think he will. I think this is the moment where he's going to pull that.
Forward infrastructure in the meantime. I love this idea. He just needs more horsemen to hold. The Streltsy been doing their business. It's just the front line that's sometimes missing. There's horsemen looking to body block out. Looks like it's going to be a wraparound onto the bomb bar, but the Streltsy just get to pick apart everything in the meantime. Another bad trade as once again, Streltsy are proving the MVPs of these battles.
I feel like the Knights are proving the MVPs. The Knights that are just denying the trade forever from ZertoN.
I mean, honestly, RecoN's building Rams. He's actually building Rams. What?
I think it's a ram push on the south. Has to be. He's building up something on the south, trying to open up those walls once again for a potential second forward. Actually just blasting his way through with bombards.
Wait, I want to know where
are
these
the
Rams
Rams?
are. I don't
Maybe
care
north?
about anything else right now.
Yeah,
Yes,
there it is.
Yes, the slow wraparound attack of the Rams. A classic, always utilized 56 minutes into a game. And oh my dear lord, is this how desperate it is in the Empire? Is this what it's resorted to? Conscription? The villagers are fighting on the front line. I don't think he even realizes.
I mean, it's a cheap cannon fodder, something that you can easily absorb some damage with. Keep in mind, you're pop-capped and you need space for the trade, so sacrificing some vills are fine, especially if you can gain some ground with that. And keep in mind, those Rams, they will take some population space, something that you need in the middle.
Only 6. So, yeah, that's not too bad. Thank God they reduced it to that. This is what we've been waiting for. Remember, also, by the way, he's playing as the Rus, so he gets, was it 50% more damage on Rams? Guys, it's the future of Rus. Hour in, you build Rams. I hope he's got that unique tech. We don't see it often. This might be the game where it's finally useful out of the high armory.
I mean, he didn't even get chemistry, so what do you expect? Well, he's gotten that.
Screw chemistry, but I'll remember to upgrade my Rams. I love RecoN. 57 minutes into the game. And the funny part is all the attention's in the center. These Rams are pop cap efficient for taking out buildings in the north. The north side that does have infrastructure for ZertoN to rebuild army. That army is not rebuilding quick enough. Look at him now. ZertoN almost down to 150 pop cap. RecoN always chugga choo-choo him forward at 200 pop cap consistently.
Yeah, Wood is now a limited resource, and keep in mind that the Golden Gate is a massive advantage here for RecoN, turning all the gold he gets from the trade into wood. And this is not a tool that ZertoN has access to. Heck, he doesn't even have access to trade right now. He's just now setting it up.
If I'm like RecoN, I just keep going in and buying wood. Because that's going to be the limiting factor at this rate. ZertoN, think about what he needs. What do horse archers cost? Yeah,
wood.
Exactly. What do horsemen cost?
Wood.
What does everything ZertoN dreams of cost?
I mean, everything, really. Like, I would say wood, but wood itself is not enough for him to fulfill his dreams, you get the feel.
And he is a pipe dream at this stage. Like, he's going camel riders. Oh, they'll be riding until they die, and they'll die fast. I mean, the problem is, like, camel riders seem like a good answer to horsemen until you remember that the horsemen aren't there to fight well. They're just there to body block for the Streltsy. And they've done a remarkable job throughout this game. Like, the amount of horses that have to die. No wonder the dog is man's best friend, because if it's the horse, we wouldn't throw them away like this.
Oh, Camel was also losing lives in the middle. And once again, momentum on the side of RecoN, 74 army against 37. Resources are there in the bank for ZertoN, but the production isn't. He's struggling to replace his numbers. And it's starting to show on the battlefield. Might be the opportunity for RecoN to finally seize high ground. And here comes a trade of Rams.
Go. Chugga choo choo. Damn. Look at those boys go. Those beastly boys. Click on them and see how glorious their damage is. This tech gets memed on. Holy
Yoink!
Strike me, Papa. That's too strong. 500 damage per strike from the Ram. Everything is getting deleted on the north side.
And it hurts for ZertoN. He needs numbers on the battlefield. Losing production like that could be painful. He could even lose the market, the only market he's trading with, while also being distracted by the fight in the middle. Camel Archers once again taking a bad fight.
Can we
He's
just
running out of juice.
process the fact that these Rams do as much damage as a trebuchet? like more. Like, what the? Good lordy. And now just a wave of horsemen to protect them. Go deeper, boys. Do the business. Slay, slay, slay. The amount of infrastructure going down has crippled ZertoN. His production rates are just poop on a stick at this rate. And if this continues, imagine if Golden Age 3 disappears. He can't keep up production at that stage.
I don't think he can keep up with Golden Age 3 even. I think it's gone. It's over. He just doesn't have momentum anymore. This is what RecoN has been waiting for. And he's got the bomb bars to finish this with.
And the reason that mattered, by the way, is you have to remember that he's having delayed production rates, right? So, you know, some of these Raptors aren't producing straight away, these stables, right? They're pushing afterwards. And that was what was keeping him consistently in it. Now, he's flatlining. He's dead. He's done. Rams MVP. We said Knights, we said Streltsy, but truly, I actually have to give the medal over to the Rams. 6 Rams and a dream come true as RecoN is in. ZertoN looks about done with this game, and my God, what a fatiguing game it would be. An hour plus to arrive at this, beaten by Rams.
And not just Rams, the Knights on the south, the real MVPs, the units that denied ZertoN from the trade for so long, allowing RecoN to always focus in the fight in the middle with a numbers advantage, slowly grinding down his opponent, because now he is just trying to put that cherry on top of the cake. The momentum is there, and it's gonna be increasingly difficult for ZertoN to hold this.
ZertoN, he hasn't waved that white flag yet, but yet to feels close to the end. The villager pull, everything, just needs to get rid of these bombards. However, the second wave is coming in. The Streltsy there is going to be an absolute massacre for maybe 10 or 20 damage maximum. All the villagers body blocked off and killed. And now ZertoN at risk of losing the main army. He has to fully commit here and he has to dive deep. The problem is that RecoN, he's not even at pop cap yet. The next wave is coming in and the Knights might be good enough to run away with what could be the final fight.
Indeed, ZertoN lives to see another day here. He might even hold this one, but look at that queue. The next wave is just now coming in here. 29 stables working non-stop to just produce Knights onto the battlefield. Streltsy once again making an appearance.
Why not more military buildings? Bro, you've got 16,000 wood. Why stop at this? You know, just be at a stage where you can hit the delete key on your entire army and it just instantly reappears. I think he actually could do that, and that could probably end this game a lot quicker for him. Kind of surprised he hasn't done it.
Look at that. ZertoN still hoping for something over here. Stuck at 170 population. Knights are trickling in. They won't do much against the Camel Riders, actually.
I feel like RecoN has confidently believed the game is already over. Understandably so. It looks like you've just completely obliterated ZertoN, but maybe a little bit too confident. However, remember what we said earlier. The Knight Sabers somewhat offsets the damage loss from Camel Unease. And because he has so many of them coming out, and they're so chunky, the Camel Archers don't do any damage anymore. And the Streltsy, once again, wipe the fight.
And as you said, it's the Streltsy that really decide this one. The Knights, they're insignificant here. They're just cannon fodder, something that absorbs the arrow fire from the Camel Archers. The real damage dealer are the Streltsy. The Knights are just there to keep them alive.
Yeah, honestly, it looks like the Joker pick, and it really is the Joker in the Dark Knight form here, just yelling, hit me. They're just there to tank fire. That's all they want to do. The Streltsy, I mean, they come swooping in like Batman. They clean house. You can see he's being pushed back to his production lines again. I wouldn't be surprised if some bombards are wheeling across the field. In fact, with so many Knights at this stage, you can just begin to torch down these buildings for free.
Look at the wood can for ZertoN. He's running out of wood. He's gonna have no chance to replenish those Camel Archers. This is likely the final push here because replenishing the army is no longer an option for ZertoN. RecoN very close to finishing game number 1.
The 3 lightly armored musketeers in the north are not really going to achieve much there, ZertoN. You're really clutching at straws here. RecoN, this took actually longer than most of the series that are going to be played today, just for game 1. But now we've reached a point where you can easily force a GG. All 3 sacred sites are capped. Trade once again intercepted, Eco fully exposed, and ZertoN looking like he's going to have to take a big breath and come back into this strong, because RecoN has to be feeling pretty damn confident after game 1.
Indeed, and he knows he has this one. ZertoN still trying to rebuild his army, but now struggling with population, down to 100. His trade is getting wrecked, his food eco is getting wrecked, and you really get the fear that ZertoN is gonna get out of this game once some siege weapons arrive here for RecoN. 35 Streltsy now on the battlefield, and ZertoN finally calls this one an hour and 5 minutes of a slugfest, and RecoN ends up victorious here in game number 1.
ZertoN just needs to change his name to the Human Punch Bag. That was brutal to watch for a long time. I mean, I understand why he thinks he's in it, and I think that's something that we need to actually address here, right? First of all, looking at this game, a lot of people go like, okay, but what, like, why did ZertoN hang in that long? He didn't have trade. He didn't know about the trade for RecoN. That's why he hung in so long. He would have tried to do something about it sooner. This is to RecoN's credit. He drew so much attention away from his own base and masked his trade. If you want to get away from being exposed for your trading, step 1 is don't go into a mega random with Beastie. Step 2 is to simply draw attention to your opponent's side of the map. That was the MVP moment. I had several of them. I feel like a MVP whore at this point. I'm just handing out everywhere. But genuinely, the choice to draw attention to the south side won RecoN this game.
Indeed, we're jumping inside to game number 2 here in the best of 3 in between these two. On to Frisian Marshes in a matchup of HRE versus the Rus. This time around, it is going to be ZertoN in command of the Rus. Previous game, it was RecoN, played an hour-long slugfest on Lipany. Now he's going to be on the Holy Roman Empire in blue.
Let's see what he can do. RecoN, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for that kind of standardized build. First things first, though, you see he goes to the second scout. He wants to try and deny some of that bounty away. Something you have to be careful of is if a Rus player does get enough early bounty, they can escalate to an aggressive feudal timing. And as we know, too often HRE players don't want aggression in feudal age. They want the quick and easy castle age.
Exactly. This is a matchup we've also seen played previously today, and we have seen some interesting plays from the Rus trying to go for tower rush. I'm curious to see whether ZertoN is thinking about that as well, trying to contain the HRE player within his base as much as possible, or whether he's just going to let the HRE player expand, because you don't expect the HRE to put up that much aggression at the beginning of the game, but you also don't want to give them all that space, because that's where the escalation potential of the HRE could come into play really fast.
And ZertoN, like the interesting thing we've seen a lot of players go for in this matchup is that secondary TC into some kind of delayed night aggression. However, as we witnessed earlier today with Crackdy versus Yui, like that's actually enough time for an HRE player rushing castle to get castle and heavily discount your hand. So I'd prefer to see ZertoN try to field some aggression earlier and then go to the secondary TC.
I agree with you. I don't think that going to TC here is worth it. The thing is that by the time you get that second TC, the HRE player, as you said, is going to be in castle. He can start popping out some knights to harass you, but more importantly, he can start picking up the relics, expand towards the pawns as well, because he's going to have the knights for map control, and all the eco advantage that you would build up on the villager department would be just offset by the immediate impact of the relics, and possibly even the eco expansion of the HRE towards the pawns. So, indeed, if you want to play 2 TCs here with the Rus, you really get the feel that you need to put up some level of aggression to at least slow down the HRE timing.
Yeah, so that kind of logic, like, what's more efficient here? Chipping eco or building my own eco? And I think, like, up against the HRE, you get exponential value out of chipping eco at an early stage because you just offset so much of their scalability. It sets the timings back so damn far. And RecoN, I love this little mining camp.
Yep,
I
it's
don't know
great.
if he's going to go on the stone, but, like, it's like, which one am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. It gives a bit of a surprise potential to him. So normally, if you had the mining camp on the stone, your opponent would know that, hey, he's gonna mine stone anyways, right? This time around, you will have to actively scout the stone to know whether your opponent actually wants to go on stone or not.
Keep in mind, one big frustration for RecoN here is he does have a forward spawning gold vein. Both of them, in fact. So this is another reason why I want to see ZertoN show early aggression. I don't think you can let an HRE player get away with that. You should be trying to block out the gold early. You could even think about pulling some villages and committing to a village fortress. Not a wooden fortress. God, we've clearly been here so long. One wooden fortress would block RecoN out indefinitely on that gold.
Yeah, and as you said, it's all about that delay game, right? You don't need to delay the HRE by a massive margin, but especially hitting that gold early with a wooden fortress, it's a relatively small investment for you, and it could be a massive slowing down thing for the HRE.
Tech up is coming out. We'll see if he goes to the pool. He has got wheelbarrow researching, so usually a lot of players like to wait until wheelbarrow completes for the efficiency involved. And also, you need enough wood initially to get that wooden fortress up. But if he just parks back in his base, I'm a little bit worried. Like, I've seen a few Roost players confidently think that they can beat the HRE tech up race, and it doesn't end well, even on a map like Frisian.
And the thing is that even if you beat them to Castle Age, you want to go for the Warrior Monks, right? But should you just go for a straight fast castle, what's going to happen? You don't have any standing army on the field, and you need to start making the Warrior Monks the moment you reach Castle Age. Whereas for HRE, while they're aging up, they can already start moving out towards the relics. And if you take a look at the relic spots, it's going to be very difficult to deny all 5 relics from the HRE, even if you beat them to castle. So the problem here is that you might even have the chance to beat the HRE to castle. The question is, where are you really benefiting from that? Because you're going to have a weak eco relatively, and you might still not be able to deny the relics.
And it looks like the Wooden Fortress investment is going to be at home. So ZertoN, I don't expect him to go for this aggressive play, blocking out the gold. I'd love to see him field some military, though. Like, he's saving up almost 400 wood. I am getting very worried that this is a secondary TC play. You know, it can work out. I hope he's got a quick, aggressive plan afterwards, though, because you can see RecoN, he's already halfway to what he needs for the tech up. E-repairs can easily save this mining camp, and also he's prepping stable.
Yeah, there it is. Was it chained in? That's why I was surprised.
Yeah, remember, because the thing that sometimes people forget is the TC has a big range initially, and then it's small on daisy chain buildings, so it reaches easily out to that mining camp.
Second TC coming up on the Shorefish. That's actually a great spot, and this is going to help you leverage that Roost extra food bonus. The problem is, as you said, that on the other side, RecoN, he's working his way towards Castle Age, and by the time ZertoN is going to see the benefit from that second TC, RecoN is going to have the map control, RecoN is going to start picking up the relics, and we're just going towards the scenario that we discussed at the beginning of this game, where the escalation in terms of economy for the Rus is much slower than it is for the HRE at the beginning of the Castle Age.
I just think that HRE are a lot stronger in the beginning of Castle Age than they once were as well. Like, the changes where the Regnants became a monastery so you can produce prelates was a huge buff. And the fact that they now fixed attack moving behavior for healing means that prelates are getting used correctly in competitive. Because before, people just wouldn't do it because there was an exploit they couldn't avoid. So I think the HRE is insanely leveled up now at the beginning of Castle. Another cool thing about this earlier game is you saw that prelate, right? Like, the prelate can buff from so far now that you can easily bait scouts into TC range. It was kind of slept on when it first happened. Some people liked it, but they didn't realize the impact. It means even with loose spawning resources like this, you can't easily assassinate the prelate.
Speaking of assassinating, though, looks like RecoN, he doesn't want to go for the Ragnis Cathedral. He wants to go for units with much higher assassination potential. That is Burgrave Palace coming up here for him. This is something that... Is it scouted, actually, by ZertoN?
It might be in a second. I thought you were referring to the fact he's maybe assassinating his ability to scale the HRE as they want to in this game. This is very
I don't like it.
Yeah, like, RecoN puts himself on the clock, and I think the reason he does this is because I think he got maybe close to 20 sheep originally. So that's a lot of food, right? Like, you can actually inflate for a long time. And I think the reason why he wants this play is because it's a reactionary move to the fact that ZertoN has shown zero aggression. So in RecoN's mind, he wants to now punish ZertoN for this and try and end the game by 15 minutes, which is usually the timing you're looking for with a Burger Palace play.
I wonder if it is also the fact that there is double forward goals for ZertoN. Normally, the Rus can get to Castle Age as well, of course, with the Golden Gate, but especially if you're going heavy on the Knights, it's not something that you really want to do. It's going to take too much time. You want to mine some gold. And essentially, the only backup gold that ZertoN would have access to is to the far north. So I could see some upside in ZertoN, or RecoN rather, trying to deny those gold mines in the front, but I'm still not a massive fan of this build, so it remains to be seen what exactly he has on his mind. Could just be a preemptive reaction to the Knights, but then again, as you said, you lose the escalation potential.
Yeah, he's going to start moving for the relics, but the key thing I wanted to highlight, and I was kind of curious to see if he's going to go for it, is the Spearman play. I was about to say that I actually think Spearmen are incredibly underrated against multi-TC booming sips. If you think your opponent's done multi-TC, which I believe did scout out, Spearman is a great way of torching them down. The logic isn't to get a unit that is tankier, it's just to get as many units as possible to do damage. Remember that secondary TCs only have 2400 HP, so they die very fast. It's actually a pretty smart play, and it also counters out the Knights you were expecting from the Rus.
Exactly, that's the key thing, right? You can't really push deep into the enemy base, but you just want to hit that expansion TC, and if you take that out, it's not like there's going to be a massive upside here for the Rus. essentially what ZertoN's game plan is built on is building a villager lead when it comes to like mid-castle age. So taking down that expansion TC is going to cut into that game plan and could easily even things out here for RecoN.
I'd actually love to see RecoN like mix in Langsneck once he's up to 20 Spearmen. Just because you should probably expect archers now, right? Like this is why a lot of players don't go for Spearmen here. They're like, oh, Roos want to build archers. I just gave them a reason. But you can turn it into a bait. With marching drills and a few Langsneck, you can actually turn that archer transition against the Roos player.
Love the wooden fortress though. This is going to slow this down so much. Only a single knight out there, and looks like the spearmen are being focused down. Nice move by ZertoN.
A little bit ambitious from RecoN, jumping the gun. If he waits for another 10 spearmen, it's an easy burn. But right now, those spearmen are bogged down by all the knights in the midfield. Just love the fact that one Chadley knight is taking on, what, 5 early Roos knights? And he's like, just take me, fight me right now. I dare you, bro. I brought backup too. I brought my posse. I mean, the remarkable part is that these spearmen still haven't been upgraded by RecoN, which feels like a little bit of a whoopsie. He's missing a lot of extra HP and damage in these fights so far.
I simply don't think he can afford it, right? It's not like he's got a tremendous gold income, so he really has to be careful with the upgrades in general. He doesn't have a spectacular eco, and you see, this is the problem with the spears. It is going to counter the knights in a direct engagement, but ZertoN has no desire to take direct engagements over here. On the contrary, he just wants to avoid and raid. Ooh,
hello, honey.
Beautiful.
Spearman coming into play. Nice wraparound by RecoN. And good pinch. And by the way, that's without marching drills.
Yep.
Wow.
Finally getting some value for those spears.
And he's going to start to invest in a few more. I think this is the point where the upgrade is worth it, like 12 spearmen in. I think that's a good point to say, yeah, the extra health and damage actually adds up.
He's going to start becoming the aggressor very soon, and this is what he has to do. He needs to force engagements. He can't just chase the knights all across the map. He doesn't have the mobility. He needs to be the aggressor. The problem he's facing is that archers are already being added, and it's not like he has great tools to deal with those. He only has a handful of knights, and you get the feel that the composition for ZertoN on the field is stronger than what RecoN has.
RecoN just wants space right now. You saw he's playing out onto the pocket ecos. It's actually a great play here. Like, he's drawing attention midfield. He's using that to pick up relics. But what do high-level players always look for? The extra one-up. He's getting great gathering rates on the deer and possibly on the fish in the coming minute. With a prelate out there also, this is going to bolster him pretty effectively. Something I would love to see RecoN do is invest in a monastery, so he's not sacrificing villager production, and also can think about transitioning these prelates into a military unit down the line.
Bear is also being depleted here for RecoN, so suddenly he's going to be massively in the need of food. And as you said, this is the win condition for ZertoN here. If he can hit these pocket ecos, he could easily cut his opponent off from food. And keep in mind, it's nice that you have the Burgrave Palace, but if you don't have the resources to make it consistently work, it's essentially a worthless piece of building.
Yeah. And he only just got the upgrade, right? Like, you can see how stunted he's been for a long time. It's very difficult for him to just amass spearmen. I think he's now at a stage where with 2 relics banked, he can maybe think about 1 or 2 Langsneck. Like, there's enough extra eco there to do that every minute. And if you get up to, say, 8 Langsneck in a fight around the 50-minute mark, I think you can actually wipe ZertoN's army. It just comes to that timing. And the other key details, he finds that little bit of extra gold to get into the marching drills. Because without marching drills, like, you're not gap closing quick enough.
Exactly. It looks like ZertoN wants to dive in here. This is just to cover his castle age, though. You can see that he's about to go up to castle age, so he's becoming the aggressor just to shield himself from a counterattack that could possibly stop his castle. Goes up with the high trade house as well.
Interesting choice. There's still 3 relics in play, but this is becoming a more popular choice, especially if you can get like double value. I think maybe if he went a little bit more aggressive towards his TC, the Stealth Forest would have inflated him a lot here, but still should get decent gains. I think another big advantage to people seeing this is if you only need like 1 Warrior Monk to eventually go pick up relics, then what you get instead is the ability to reach the tier 3 bounty system through these passive generation of deers.
And that's big on this map. Keep in mind that the bounty system that provides you extra gather rate on the food sources also applies to the fish. So you're going to skyrocket your food economy by having a high-level bounty, tier 3 that is, and also have the shorefish.
Yeah, he knew what he wanted. He went for the final ball because he got the freedom to do so. Tech up now complete. This is where ZertoN can become threatening, considering RecoN has only been able to clash in these early fights because he had the castle up on his knights over the Roos. That's no longer the case.
Indeed, looks like RecoN is just now moving in. He's also using this window to pick up the majority of the relics. He's gonna be up to 3. Finally comes in with the blacksmith. This might be the time for marching drills. But for ZertoN, this is also a window to start building up his Castle Age army, get the upgrades in, and keep in mind that we do have a 26 eco lead for ZertoN. That should offset most of the relic disadvantage that he has, especially in combination with the Hydrate House also providing some gold trickle.
Yeah, this Burgrave call is just feeling kind of tough. Like, it's weird because it forced ZertoN to invest in military, but he was always going to invest to an advantage because ZertoN, like, had scalability. RecoN didn't have the best gathering rates. Like, thinking back, I think RecoN's, like, missing trick here was playing Pocket Eco a bit sooner to inflate his food income. It's why you saw him not able to just consistently push the spears. This is one of the weaknesses of when you go for a mass stables build. There's already so much demand on food. Like, each of these knights takes 140 food. I think that's maybe where, like, RecoN overestimated the HRE's economical power, and it's why ZertoN now looks fairly comfortable in this game.
Yeah, indeed. Knight numbers in the favor of ZertoN. We do have quite a lot of spears on the field for RecoN. Archers as a response for ZertoN. But he's not going for Boyar's Fortitude, so not only is he going to have the numbers advantage, he's also going to have the quality advantage when it comes to those knights.
Yeah, RecoN, he's now switching Horsemen, which makes a lot of sense up against the Archers, right? It's going to be your pincher. The Spearman mass isn't that big, though. It could easily get wiped before it matters. So I'm curious to see what RecoN's next step is. Like, we could be seeing a secondary TC soon, actually. You can see he's stockpiled a lot of stone. He was originally upgrading the outposts, but it might be valuable just to go for that secondary TC, because Imperial Age isn't exactly that feasible in this game now.
Yeah, it's a high risk, right? This is a very much open map with a lot of exposed resources, a lot of pocket ecos. You try to go into Imperial, you could easily get yourself overrun with Castle Age units. So it's going to be a build-up in Castle Age, and either of the players will only choose to go to Imperial should they really feel like they're going to have enough to defend while they're going up. Roos probably will be happy to go into Imperial at one point because that's going to help with the composition, but still, that's probably far away.
ZertoN scouts one of the little pocket ecos. Not a big one, but it'll snipe away at a few of these villages on the outskirts. Nice pullback by RecoN. And RecoN, he has begun to sneak out some Langsneck in small quantities, though. He queued a few up, and it looks like he's decided to just double down the Knights. A bit worrisome considering what we've highlighted. Like, these Knights are not going to trade well one-on-one. The way that RecoN could make it work is if he starts to mass Prelates, though.
Could be something. We have some warrior monks on the field as well, so that is something that ZertoN could also think about for himself. Keep in mind, it's a big investment for him to go for those warrior monks because each of those costs double than usual when you use the Hydrate House as your landmark as compared to the Abbey.
Yeah. It's 40 food and 200 gold.
Yep.
And your comp is already very demanding on gold, knights and crossbows. So I don't expect him to use them militarily, outside of like these ones being thrown away. After that, it's going to be more about like strategic resources such as relics and sacred sites. But the first fight, someone forgot to turn off the auto heal, and that means that the warrior monk's not doing anything. Spearman now arriving. In the meantime, they already target out onto the archers. Nice wraparound for the knights of RecoN, and it looks like it's going to be a cleanup. ZertoN, at risk of losing the entire army, has to stand and fight, but he's already fighting a losing battle. Spearmen get in, they clean up the last of the knights, and cleanup now coming out from the blue as they overwhelm the remaining crossbows.
Indeed, knights have to detach over here, but you see they're letting those crossbows just die to the knights, no more meat shield in front, and RecoN can dive deep, seeing the gold miners, a lot of damage potential here to the south of ZertoN's base.
Spearman definitely getting value. Great delayed engagement from RecoN. Made sure the spears didn't get picked apart. Baited the knights into a bad fight. In a situation where the boys' fortitude should have given them a good trade, they get no such thing. And remember, although it looks like, you know, most of the army's being cleaned up on either side, this is a dive into the base. ZertoN should be favored with positioning and with defensive reinforcement. Yet still, RecoN is the one with a standing army at the end.
And look at the lumberjacks. Nowhere to garrison. The town center is full. The tower barely has space in there. This is the jackpot.
Look at the idle eco right now. 43, 50+ villages in ZertoN's eco are doing nothing. A few of them are dying, but most of it is just idle right now. In a situation where RecoN is unleashed, this is where the beast can begin to escalate. Just look at the military difference. 11 knights still standing, a second wave on its way, and ZertoN likely to remain oppressed in the coming minutes.
Oh, the damage is just massive here. Not just the villagers killed, also the idled ones. Half of the eco for ZertoN idle. And as you said, it's one thing he holds off the first wave, but what is he going to do with the second wave that's already on the way?
It's worrisome. He's still reacting to the first wave coming in. RecoN, it's just still knights. He's trying to say goodnight quickly to ZertoN here. Farm transition has been set up, so it doesn't have to rely on the pocket ecos as much anymore, although they are free to do whatever they choose. And Sacred Sites won't be a win condition either for ZertoN. He needs to take a strong, hard fight to get out of his base. My concern, however, is with his over-reliance on crossbows, RecoN could consider going into a Siege Workshop, countering with the mangoes.
Or how about a keep drop?
Get a little bit aggressive here. For good reason, actually. Look at the gold.
Yeah.
This is the gold.
No more gold to work
needs.
with. Look at the production buildings even, or the landmarks.
Oh,
this is a great fort position.
Torch down the Wooden Fortress. ZertoN's only choice is to play risky onto the central Sacred Site for gold. That's going to be an easy pinch point, though. Once RecoN gets this keep set up, he can just divert all forces to the east.
And that's only trebuchets being made. They will be sniped down instantly because there's nothing guarding them. And now the Knights being peeled off. Great chance to do some raids with as well. ZertoN is just trying to play catch up here, but he's struggling big time.
That is a please, please, please let me have gold keep. And just a few Knights can easily keep idling you here. Like, just think about French Knights in the early game. You can do the same thing with this keep. Sure, you take heavy damage, but ZertoN needs that gold right now. Just delaying him half a minute is good enough here because it will prevent him getting the siege out to deal with this castle.
And keep in mind, this keep is protecting the gold, but it's not protecting the fish. And now, once again, tremendous idle time on ZertoN's eco. Also losing the trebuchet here while being distracted. He's being torn to shreds here by RecoN.
Just feels like maybe there's a bit of fatigue, a little bit of frustration still. It's hard to reset after a first game, like the first game we saw here. But RecoN, I mentioned that potential for the confidence to surge on through, and you can see that confidence now. Unleashed across the map, ZertoN struggling to react everywhere at once. And even when he does, it ends up being 20-30 eco, just idling and running away.
Yeah, he's just... all that eco lead that he has is being offset by the fact that those villagers are just running for their lives. And ZertoN is struggling to catch up. It's a very open map. His units are mostly slow. Most of his army just being crossbowmen. And look at that. His eco is being torn to shreds.
Yeah, it's just not working anymore. His food's going to be dipping at this rate. Looks like the Knights will now get a clash. Should be a reasonable one if more troops don't arrive for RecoN. My bigger concern right now is if RecoN starts using his Springolds near the base of ZertoN, the Trebs can't do anything. So far, that Springald he built has been AFK, and that Trebuchet has got to live rent-free in this fight.
And look at that, villagers being slain everywhere. The ZertoN can't keep track of all those Knights out there, and he's just being torn to shreds.
It's two Trebs now, but they just can't attack. Crossbows can't even move in range to counter out the Springolds. If anything, ZertoN needs his own Springolds. Just doesn't have the eco for it. Freebie's given over, it looks like. Nice little snipe in. The Treb siege continues, but in the meantime, Knights wrap around, and look at the idle eco again. ZertoN, half of his economy is just sleeping.
I mean, the other half is just dead, right? Villagers being slain left and right. Once again, food eco being hit hard, and look at the food income.
I feel
it's
like
gone.
a child-friendly movie right now. He's not dead, he's just sleeping. They're not dead, they're just taking a prolonged... Bambi is not dead, just sleeping. Everything is sleeping right now for ZertoN. But it might be an eternal slumber at this rate.
Yeah, half of his eco is sleeping, the other half is just sleeping permanently, I get the feel.
Yeah, they're Snow White right now, waiting for Prince Charming. RecoN right now, he's charming me with this gameplay like this. You know, game one, the way he kind of clinched that up, recovered in the late game and slow snowball to victory. And then game two, so much quicker off of the starting line to pinch, to get that pressure out. Even with this Burgrave that we thought looked a bit shaky and a little bit lackluster, the way he recovered though and took good fights shows you why he's in contest to make it to Wololo, why he's been one of my slept-on players in people's eyes that I think could easily make it to Heidelberg.
Indeed, ZertoN also candid to make it to Heidelberg, but looks like he's in a tough position over here against a rival. As you said, both players poised to possibly make it to Heidelberg, could be the outsiders looking in. This is an important set for both, and right now it is RecoN who's dominating it.
You spam, and I mean the villagers, I don't know where the hell they're going. Oh, they're going to hell. That's where they're going. They're trying to react, but the Knights, oh god! Speaking of a living hell, once again ZertoN reacts in one place but not the other. RecoN is tearing him a new one. They are now neck and neck in the villager count.
And it's a farm transition, something that RecoN is going to clearly see. It's a sign that his opponent is desperate for food. It's a sign that's telling RecoN that he's on a good course. He's also transitioning to farms, but he's also much better set up with the Aachen Chapel supporting those. Momentum is massively on his side.
It's like it's an efficiency game to think about in these farm transitions. Like, yes, the Roost, they get 20% more wood on drop-off, but the HRE work 40% harder. So they make a return on their farms quicker than the Roost would. It's actually really compounded and annoying as well, because it's not just the wood that you're gathering quicker as the HRE, it's then the food afterwards. I think that's something that kind of gets slept on a lot. It means that the HRE can actually more comfortably make a farm transition. It's why often we'll see high-level players build farms slowly up, one by one, very early on in the game, because it's a justifiable cost.
Indeed, and it's going to pay for its price so fast, especially when you are still the aggressor and you're sitting behind walls. So counterattack is not really an option for ZertoN here, while also you can keep raiding his eco over and over again. And the Burgrave Palace, now it's 74 villagers backing up your eco. The Burgrave Palace really can start paying for its price.
And now Mangonels being built by RecoN. Looks like they did get sniped out straight away. I like the idea, maybe not the execution, because mainly ZertoN's army is just crossbows. There's crossbows and siege keeping them alive. Sure, there's a few knights in there, but these knights have felt pretty irrelevant. Their only job is to chase other knights, like rowdy horses looking for fun.
And once again, the idle time, it's just massive.
Just look at it. Like, this is crippling. I mean, imagine, like, I'm kind of surprised ZertoN hasn't built up any walls in these areas. Like, this is something I've noticed a lot of players do, actually. They neglect to build walls on their flank point towards the lakes. And it means that these type of raids become 10 times more effective than they should be when they're done more than, say, 2 or 3 times in a game.
Castle drop coming up. ZertoN has gotten enough stone for himself for one. He's going to drop it right next to the opponent's base.
It's happening again.
Oh.
He's body blocked out as well. This is, oh man, RecoN, like, this is impressive. Like, he's stepping up in my eyes. This is... You know those kind of matchups where you're like, this guy doesn't, like, he's 2 steps ahead, like, he's forcing so many reactions that can't be reacted to? RecoN is doing that, and he's doing it really, really well in this game.
Yeah, he's doing a great job out there indeed. And he's just tearing apart his opponent's eco, really leveraging that mobility advantage. Eco numbers still neck and neck though, but it's the confidence that RecoN is playing that really sets these two players apart, you feel.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's not neck and neck is the problem, right? It's like a big fat bait because we already mentioned those holy inspiration rates. I'd love to see if RecoN actually went from Monastery and then went for the increased gathering rate buff, right? Because you can get Devoutness and get an extra 10%. Would be a pretty smart play considering how long this game is. Then again, you know, what else is a smart play? Just getting Imperial Age, which is what RecoN's about ready to do. Remember, the HRE do get a discount in the Palace of Swabia, and he's about to get the required quantity to grab that.
Indeed, and this is where, once again, the power spike of the HRE could come into play here. And the thing is that he's not doing this off the back of an army deficit. He's still the aggressor, and he can safely go up to Imperial Age behind this one. Start thinking about Elite Knights. Look at that. Here he goes again.
I mean, the ZertoN's not even reacting this time. By the time he sees it, it's going to be 5 more villagers, 6 more villagers down. And you know, he's been keeping neck and neck because the 2 TC versus 1. That's about to change. Palace of Swabia not only produces villages 3 times as quickly as a normal TC, it also gives you a 66% discount. This is about to be a big boon from RecoN.
It's gonna be a big boom indeed, and he keeps chipping away with those villagers. It's also more and more difficult to set them back to work, right?
Look at the idle time. Just go and look at that high trade house. Like, can I gather some deer now? No, I'm not done yet. Please, we're really inefficient back. No, I'm not done yet. Like, he has double the villagers here that he should because he doesn't have enough farm set up, which is kind of crazy because he's floating 1,000 wood, but it's because where does he build them that he's not going to get killed?
Yeah, that's it, right? And every raid that comes in forces those villagers to garrison, and once they just ungarrison, they will be sent back to a resource that possibly is already saturated with villagers. The efficiency decreases more and more because ZertoN simply doesn't have the time to fix his eco.
Knock, knock. Who's there? An underwhelming Rus army ready to fight, sir. Okay, just let me get my mangonels ready behind my walls. RecoN about to clear that tech up. Doesn't want to fight right now. You can definitely buy some time with this forward infrastructure, though. In the meantime, he might eventually just block out the gold that ZertoN is using to keep himself alive right now.
And it's a hardcore horseman switch. RecoN is letting his opponent push deeper and deeper, knowing that most of the forces are crossbows and he just wants to fight with the horsemen.
There's the bad news. ZertoN has no choice. He has to go now. Even if he sees it being counted out, if he backsteps from here, he knows it's going to surge into his own base with the tech ups that are going to come out in the next minute or 2 for the HRE. So he needs to do some damage. Moving in. Crossbows, a little bit hesitant. Horsemen cleaning up the knights in the meantime. I'm worried. I'm very worried right now because if you wait, if you delay on going in the next 2 minutes, HRE is going to unlock their full potential with all the upgrades.
But you can't push. There are already towers out there, horsemen to block you out. The crossbows by themselves, they might be able to do some damage, but what's the price you pay for that? You dive in with the crossbows, do some damage, you lose everything, and you don't have a standing army. He either sacrifices
paranoid.
everything, his army, or...
You know... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, like, what I was trying to say is, if he sacrifices his entire army, he's gonna die to a counterattack. If he doesn't sacrifice it, he's going to let his opponent get to 30, 40 horsemen with the elite upgrades.
And the reason why I wanted to interrupt is because what was coming through if he kept pushing there is the cannons. That's why he doesn't want to sacrifice the army. It's not even efficient.
Yep.
He goes in, he gets boomed down straight away. I mean, this is something the HRE love to do because they get them 25% cheaper. That's the problem. When you see outposts like that, you're like, okay, I already know what he's going to do. This is the volatility of the HRE in Imperial Age. We've been seeing it more and more in the last few weeks. Less so on the castles and more so on the outposts.
Oh, nice snipe on the trebuchet out there, but it's just too little too late. You see, ZertoN is also thinking about Imperial Age himself, but he's going to get caught in the transition, and that's the scary thing. Once again, raids all over the place.
Spearman this time. Everything gets to dive into this base. Honestly, if you look at his home base, you'd think the ZertoN is playing Mongols, right? Like, he's got good aggressive walls, but that's recent. Like, a lot of this game has been open map, and it's just been a fiesta for RecoN to party in.
And you see elite upgrade just now coming in here. We are reaching that point where for ZertoN options will be so limited. His eco is now weaker than his opponents. He either thinks about going to Imperial and leaves him exposed to a counterattack, or he pushes in, but neither of those choices seem very pleasant for him.
He's at least slowly getting through these outposts, the cannon placements we talked about. Which is why RecoN's not going to waste more stone there. Instead, he's just trying to ball up the horseman count. In the meantime, drawing more troops to the backside, sniping eco as he goes. And you can see it's very chill. He's very calm about it, actually. There's not that many stables right now for RecoN.
He doesn't need
Probably
it.
double this.
He's got the Burgrave, right? So some Landsknecht that could actually come into play here. Oops.
Villagers, hello? All right, no coffee breaks. All right, no unionizing over here. All right, this is our union busters coming in. Crossbows to clean up a bunch of villagers on the exit. And horsemen. That's cheeky. I love that from RecoN. Straight in, he's like, oh, these trebuchets look a little bit unguarded. It would be a shame if someone was to come in and kill them.
Yeah, it would be a shame if we could also flank all the crossbows. Here they come. Not a lot of Landsknecht in here, just spear and horseman, but it's a tech advantage between the two, and it should be a cleanup in the favor of RecoN. Massive win once again in this battle.
That's brutal as well. The spearmen haven't been upgraded yet. It's just the horsemen. That's the detail that matters. If you click on these bad boys, you'll see just how chunky they are. The crossbows can't kill them off quick enough. Just a small handful got rid of 2 trebuchets before dying. 180 health and 7 missile resistance. Offsetting about 40%. Maybe actually 50% of the crossbow damage. So I think these bad boys do about 13 damage. Actually 14 with the double range upgrade.
Yeah, still Spearman for RecoN. He's actually low on gold. That's why he's not making Landsknecht. But he's slowly grinding down the forces of ZertoN here. And Spearman will work fine until the archers show on the battlefield.
Like, this is kind of an advantage of playing Burgrave. You don't get obsessed with gold. I mean, who wants gold? everyone knows that gold, that sucks. Food and wood. Pokey sticks and mouths to feed. That's all you need
the
to win.
villagers?
Again,
got trapped in there.
I mean, it's kind of tough. Like, this has been happening on repeat. Well, like, what's the definition of insanity? It just feels like ZertoN's never walled this off, even though it was free to do. He could have maybe, like, condensed the assault point, but RecoN, time and time again, somehow just wiggles his way on that eco.
It's a crazy slugfest once again. We are down, well, actually, we are up to 32 minutes game time. And you see, RecoN, he's in no rush to win this one. He's just grinding down his opponent piece by piece. And look at that, once again, the wraparound. This time around gets rewarded with quite a few villager kills. Again, oh, actually? He's going away.
Like, he's a little bit hesitant about the Knights. I'm surprised he could actually take out the entire villager army. I think it's the second wave that's gotten a bit threatened, though. So instead, we'll just open up more gaps in and out to shake about. And look, he's got to shake up the south side. More horsemen, spearmen coming in. ZertoN becoming overly reliant on knights in a situation where he faces spears is quite concerning here. RecoN, however, once again lacking the spear upgrade. Very delayed on these from each tech up.
He's desperate for gold. You see, he's got 300 per minute only, and he really needs to be careful what he chooses to upgrade and what he chooses to skip.
I think like spearman just makes a lot of sense. Like, if you're limited on gold, okay, use like this small finite amount you have to just upgrade spears and then mass spears. Because actually ZertoN doesn't have any counter to spears right now.
I could also see him trying to pile up resources for biology. I'm not sure if he has that on the horseman, but that could also be something he could justify.
That's true. I think maybe like the spears just function as a deterrent for the like the knights, and then the horsemen come through. And okay, as we're talking about composition, ZertoN doesn't care anymore. He's done. He knows there's no way back in. RecoN, it took half the time of game 1, but it still felt like a slugfest. Yet he's the one standing at the end of the bout. 2-0 score for him, and he'll head through to the round of 16. ZertoN will have to try again in another weekly.
This is a big win here for RecoN because we talk about these two players, both of them trying to qualify to the main event of Red Bull Wololo Legacy, and both of them possibly play